Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring some pretty wild theories about human origins, and you might even start to question everything you thought you knew about history by the end of this. So get ready for a wild ride as we take a look at Michael Tsarion's Atlantis, alien visitation, and genetic manipulation.
Yeah, this book pretty much throws out conventional history and religion to present a pretty bold new narrative.
By the end of this deep dive, I think you'll understand Tsarion's core argument, and we'll talk about some of the evidence that he presents.
And then you can decide for yourself if his ideas are just speculation or something more.
Right.
So, Tsarion's theory all hinges on the idea that Earth was visited by these advanced alien race, the Nephilim, long, long ago.
Not just visit, though, right?
No.
Tsarion believes that they actually shaped human history, and that they had technology that would make our modern inventions look like toys.
Oh, yeah. Flying machines, incredible weapons, and even the possibility of atomic technology.
Okay, so where's he getting all this from? Like, how does he back this up?
He draws on ancient texts like the Mahabharata, the Book of Enoch, and the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Oh, okay, I've heard some of those.
Yeah, these texts, they describe sky gods descending from the heavens in Vimanas, which are these flying chariots, and they talk about devastating wars that sound eerily similar to nuclear events. He even suggests that the descriptions of men of brass in these texts could be ancient accounts of beings in, like, advanced metallic suits.
Okay, wait, so you're telling me that stories we often dismiss as just myths could actually be evidence of ancient alien contact?
That's exactly what Tsarion's proposing, and it gets even more interesting. He suggests the Nephilim didn't just visit.
Oh,
They actually engineered humanity
Wow.
through genetic manipulation, creating two distinct human races.
Hold on, two types of humans. I am all ears. Tell me more about this.
All right, so he calls the first group the Sons of the Serpent.
Okay.
These were beings that he describes as intellectually gifted, but ultimately they rebelled against their creators.
Oh, interesting.
The second group is called the Adamic race. They were supposedly genetically modified to be more subservient, and they lacked the kind of advanced knowledge that the Nephilim possessed. He uses the term naked to symbolize this lack of higher understanding.
So we've got these alien overlords that created humans, and then there was a rebellion. This is sounding like a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
What happened next in this cosmic drama?
Well, according to Tsarion, things escalated into an all-out war between the Nephilim and their creations.
Okay.
And this wasn't just any war, though.
Yeah.
This was a cataclysmic nuclear conflict that actually reshaped the planet.
Wait, nuclear war thousands of years ago? That's a pretty dramatic claim. I mean, what evidence is there for this?
He points to these widespread myths and legends from all these different cultures that depict global floods and devastating fires and the destruction of entire civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria.
Yeah.
These, he argues, are not just like isolated stories, but echoes of this shared traumatic event, the aftermath of a nuclear war.
So that's a pretty radical interpretation of these myths.
Yeah.
But does he connect this ancient nuclear war to any events that happened more recently?
He does. Remember the Tunguska event in Siberia?
Yeah, back in 1908.
Yes. That massive explosion that flattened hundreds of square miles of forest. Most scientists think it was a meteorite, but Tsarion suggests it could have been something else entirely.
Oh, okay. What does he think it was?
Well, Tsarion proposes that the Tunguska event could have been caused by malfunctioning ancient technology, perhaps remnants of the Nephilim's weapons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, there were eyewitness accounts that described the object changing direction in mid-flight, which isn't something a meteorite would normally do. And then you've got the fact that there wasn't really a clear impact crater,
Right.
which leads him to believe it could have been something else entirely.
That is a wild theory, but I've got to admit, it's pretty captivating. So, if he's right about this war, what happened to the Nephilim? Did they just vanish?
Not according to Tsarion. He believes that their descendants are still among us, hidden in plain sight, influencing society.
What?
Yeah, and controlling key institutions.
So, wait, he's suggesting we're still under the control of these ancient aliens. That's a pretty heavy thought.
Yeah, and he argues that their influence is subtle, but it's everywhere. He points to things like the rise of secret societies and the occult significance of symbols like the serpent and the number 13, and then there's the emphasis on bloodlines in royalty and power structures.
Wow, so instead of, like, spaceships and lasers, they're now pulling the strings from the shadows.
Exactly. He paints this picture of a world where control has evolved from physical domination into something much more insidious, a kind of psychological manipulation.
Okay, that's definitely something to think about. We've covered a lot of ground here. Alien creators, warring human races, nuclear war, and now secret societies controlling the world.
Right.
Where do we even go from here? What comes next in this grand narrative?
Well, if you thought the story couldn't get any wilder, buckle up, because Tsarion's theory takes us even further down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
He suggests that Earth is essentially a prison planet.
Hold on. A prison planet. You're going to have to explain that one.
And we're all trapped here.
Imprisoned by who and why?
Tsarion believes that the Nephilim's enemies, the beings who destroyed their home planet, Tiamat, they were the ones who placed Earth under quarantine.
Wow.
They imprisoned the Nephilim here to contain them and prevent them from spreading their influence to other worlds.
So Earth is like a cosmic jail cell for these ancient alien overlords.
Yeah.
That's a pretty chilling thought. What evidence does he have for this?
He points to the moon.
The moon.
You might just think of it as this beautiful celestial body, but Tsarion sees it as an impenetrable barrier, a stargate of sorts, that prevents us from traveling beyond a certain point in space.
Wait, so the moon is keeping us trapped here. How does that work?
Think of the moon's orbit like a kind of invisible fence, a boundary that nothing can cross. He suggests that this stargate was intentionally put in place by the Nephilim's enemies to keep them confined to Earth. He even mentions a mysterious incident in Siberia where a spacecraft was seemingly destroyed.
A spacecraft. What happened?
The details are a little murky, but Tsarion uses this incident as possible evidence of this stargate in action, suggesting the spacecraft was destroyed because it attempted to break through this cosmic barrier.
So we're not just talking about ancient history here. He's saying that this cosmic conflict is still playing out in the modern world.
That's right. And he believes that the methods of control have become even more sophisticated over time, shifting from that physical domination to a more subtle and insidious psychological manipulation.
So we've gone from ancient astronauts and nuclear war to a prison planet and a mysterious stargate. That's a lot to process.
It is.
So where do we go from here? What does Tsarion say about humanity's future if we're all stuck on this prison planet?
Well, it might sound bleak, but Tsarion doesn't believe we're completely without hope. He argues that the key to breaking free from this control lies in understanding how it works, recognizing the Nephilim's tactics, and waking up to the reality of our situation.
That sounds like a pretty tall order. How do we do that?
Well, he believes that the first step is becoming aware of the subtle ways in which we're being manipulated, and he calls for a reversal of the vector, essentially turning the tables on those who seek to control us by using their own tactics against them.
I'm really curious to hear more about this reversal of the vector and what he suggests we do to actually break free from this control.
Yeah.
So
we'll definitely dive deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, let's just take a moment to kind of, digest everything we've learned so far about Tsarion's theory.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. Let's delve a little deeper into some of the more fascinating and controversial details of Tsarion's argument.
Okay.
He really emphasizes how the Nephilim used symbolism and language to manipulate us, and understanding this is really crucial to that reversal of the vector that we talked about.
Okay, so where do we start with this whole symbolic manipulation thing?
Right.
Any specific examples?
Well, he goes really deep into the serpent symbol. It's often associated with, evil, temptation.
Right.
But Tsarion argues that this wasn't always the case. Originally, the serpent represented wisdom and knowledge. It was a powerful symbol that was later twisted and corrupted,
Oh, interesting. So how does he explain that shift in meaning?
Well, he draws a distinction between, how the serpent was used by the two human races that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Remember?
Yes.
The sons of the serpent who, they embraced their connection to knowledge. They often depicted the serpent in a positive light. They'd show it with wings, a crown, or even multiple colors to symbolize, wisdom, white magic, mystical practices.
I see. Yeah, like the feathered serpent in Mesoamerican cultures.
Right.
Or the uraeus in ancient Egypt. Those weren't seen as evil symbols, but as representations of powerful divine forces.
Right, exactly. But Tsarion argues that the Nephilim and those who followed them, they used the serpent in a much more sinister way.
Yeah.
For them, it represented control, manipulation, the darker aspects of power.
Right.
By twisting the meaning of the serpent, they could instill fear and obedience, turning a symbol of knowledge into a warning,
That's a really interesting way to look at it. By controlling the meaning of symbols, you can kind of control how people think and feel about them.
Exactly.
It's subtle, but potentially a really effective form of manipulation.
Absolutely.
What about language?
Yeah.
How does he see that as like a tool of control?
Well, he suggests that even the words we use have been carefully chosen to shape our understanding of the world.
Okay.
Remember how he describes the Adamic race as being naked?
Right.
Well, this isn't just about physical nakedness.
Right.
It's a metaphor for their lack of knowledge, their vulnerability to manipulation.
Like they were kind of stripped of their intellectual and spiritual armor, leaving them exposed to those who would try to control them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And Tsarion argues that this manipulation continues today through, the media, education systems, even our social interactions. We're constantly being bombarded with messages that are designed to shape our thoughts and our beliefs and our behavior.
So how do we break free from this web of like linguistic and symbolic manipulation?
Yeah.
How do we see through the illusions and reclaim our own understanding of the world?
That's where his idea of the reversal of the vector comes in.
Okay.
He argues that we need to start by questioning everything, especially the things we take for granted.
Right.
We need to deconstruct the language and the symbols that are being used to control us and reclaim their original meaning.
So it sounds like he's calling for kind of a mental and spiritual revolution, like a shift in consciousness that allows us to kind of see the world with fresh eyes?
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of the subtle ways in which we're being manipulated and reclaiming our own power to think critically and independently. It's not an easy task, but Tsarion believes it's absolutely essential if we want to break free from this control that's been imposed upon us for millennia.
It makes sense. Like, awareness is definitely the first step. But what about this prison planet idea?
Right.
If the moon really is like a stargate keeping us trapped here, how can we even hope to escape?
Yeah, that's one of the most intriguing and challenging aspects of his theory. He doesn't believe that physical escape is the answer.
Okay.
He believes the true prison is mental and spiritual, one that's created by the beliefs and systems that limit our understanding of who we are and what we're capable of.
So it's not about physically leaving Earth, but like breaking free from the chains that bind us, like mentally and spiritually.
That's his core argument, yeah. He suggests that by understanding the nature of our imprisonment, by reclaiming our own power, and by connecting with our true potential, we can actually transcend the limitations of this prison planet and create a new reality for ourselves, even if we never physically leave Earth.
I'm starting to see how, all the pieces of his theory fit together, like the ancient astronauts and the genetic manipulation and the manipulation of language and symbols, the prison planet idea. It's all part of this larger narrative about control and how we can break free from it.
Exactly, and he doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
He argues that the Nephilim's control has actually become even more insidious in the modern world, moving beyond physical force and symbolism to a more direct form of manipulation.
What, like mind control?
Mind control, like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
That's a pretty bold claim. What evidence does he have for that?
He points to a number of factors, like starting with the rise of, mass media and propaganda. Yeah. Just think about how we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides. News, advertising, social media.
Right.
It's like this never-ending stream that's designed to shape our perceptions and our beliefs and our behavior.
I can see how that could be seen as a form of mind control.
Right.
We're constantly being told what to think, what to buy, how to live our lives.
Exactly.
It's easy to get swept up in it all and lose sight of our own values and our own beliefs.
And Tsarion believes this is all part of a deliberate strategy by the Nephilim's descendants to keep us distracted and divided and ultimately under their control.
Right.
He even suggests that the pharmaceutical industry plays a role in this whole mind control agenda.
Wait, the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah.
How does he connect those dots?
Well, he argues that a lot of the drugs that were prescribed, things like antidepressants, anxiety medications, even painkillers, are designed to kind of numb us out, make us more compliant and less likely to question what's going on.
That's a pretty controversial claim, but I guess I can see how it fits into his larger theory about control. He's basically suggesting that even our health and well-being are being manipulated for someone else's benefit.
Exactly.
Wow.
And he goes even further.
Okay.
He suggests that technology is also being used as a tool of mind control.
Okay.
He points to things like HARP, which is a controversial research program that studies the ionosphere.
Right.
He says it's a potential weapon for manipulating weather patterns and even influencing human thought.
Okay, now we're really getting into conspiracy theory territory here.
Yeah.
HARP controlling our mind.
Right.
That sounds a little far-fetched, don't you think?
It's definitely one of the more speculative aspects of his theory. But, he argues that we need to be aware of the potential for technology to be used against us,
Okay.
especially as our world becomes increasingly reliant on it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's easy to become complacent and trust that technology is always going to be used for good, but, history has shown us time and time again that any tool can be used for both good and evil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Tsarion believes that the crop circle phenomenon is another example of how technology is being used to manipulate us.
You're saying those intricate patterns in fields are a form of mind control?
Mm.
I always thought they were created by, playful aliens or something.
Right, that's the popular narrative.
Yeah.
But Tsarion offers a different perspective.
Yeah.
He suggests that crop circles are created with advanced technology, potentially by the same forces that are using HARP and other means to influence us.
So instead of messages from friendly extraterrestrials, they're actually part of this mind control agenda.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
Very
He believes they're designed to, sow confusion and distract us and prevent us from focusing on the real issues.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground here, from ancient astronauts and genetic manipulation to the manipulation of language and symbols, and now mind control through media, pharmaceuticals, and even technology.
They know, right?
It's a pretty overwhelming picture of a world that seems to be spiraling towards, control and manipulation.
It's definitely a lot to take in. But his theory isn't just about, exposing the darkness. It's also about offering a path towards liberation,
Right.
He believes that by understanding the tactics that are being used against us, by reclaiming our own power, and by connecting with our, true potential, we can actually break free from this cycle of control and create a new reality for ourselves.
Okay.
And for humanity as a whole.
I'm really interested to hear more about how we can actually do that.
Yeah.
What are the specific steps that he recommends
Yeah.
for breaking free from this web of control?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something we'll definitely explore in detail in the final part of our deep dive.
All right. We're back and ready to explore Tsarion's ideas about breaking free from, this web of control. Last time you mentioned that he believes we can create this new reality for ourselves, even if we're stuck on this prison planet. So, how do we do that? Where do we even begin?
Well, it's not about spaceships or escaping Earth's atmosphere. It's really about an internal shift. Tsarion emphasizes this idea of individual awakening, recognizing the manipulations that we've been subjected to for so long, and then breaking free from those mental and spiritual chains that kind of bind us,
Okay, but how do we actually awake? That sounds kind of vague. What are the practical steps?
Tsarion argues that knowledge is our most powerful weapon. He encourages us to question everything, to
Right.
delve deeper into history and mythology and even science, looking for those hidden truths that have been obscured for so long. He sees this as kind of reclaiming the knowledge that was stolen from humanity, remember? The nakedness of the Adamic race.
Yeah.
It's about putting those clothes back on, metaphorically speaking.
So it's about educating ourselves, becoming more discerning about the information that we consume, and learning to think critically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about intellectual knowledge either. It's about connecting with our intuition, that inner wisdom that Tsarion believes we all possess. He sees intuition as this kind of internal compass that can guide us through this maze of manipulation and help us find our own truth.
That makes sense. If we're constantly being bombarded with all these external messages telling us what to think and believe, it's easy to kind of lose touch with our own inner voice.
Exactly.
So how do we reconnect with that intuition?
Well, Tsarion suggests spending time in nature, meditating, practicing mindfulness, anything that helps us quiet the mental chatter and tune into that deeper sense of knowing. He believes that by reconnecting with nature, we can kind of tap into this source of wisdom that's far older and more profound than any of those, manufactured systems that try to control us.
It's we need to unplug from the matrix.
Yeah.
Step outside of the system and reconnect with something bigger than ourselves.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And it's not just about, like, individual awakening either.
Right.
Tsarion also stresses the importance of collective action. He believes that by, coming together, by sharing knowledge, and by supporting each other, we can create a powerful force for change.
So it's about building a community of like-minded individuals who are all committed to, like, truth and freedom and awakening.
Exactly. He calls for a revolt of the slaves. This, like, mass awakening that will finally break the chains of control and usher in a new era of, peace and prosperity and spiritual enlightenment.
A revolt of the slaves, huh? That sounds pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
But if these, like, controlling forces are as powerful as he suggests, I mean, how can we possibly hope to overcome them? It seems like a pretty daunting task.
Well, Tsarion acknowledges those challenges, but he remains optimistic.
Okay.
He believes that the controller's power ultimately rests on our ignorance and our willingness to be controlled, by waking up, by reclaiming our knowledge and power, and by, like, uniting with others, we can shift that balance and create that new reality.
So it's about recognizing that we have, like, more power than we realize, and that our collective consciousness can create this, like, ripple effect that can actually change the world.
That's the essence of his message.
Yeah.
He believes that our thoughts and beliefs and actions have a profound impact on, the world around us. By changing ourselves, we can change the world.
It's a powerful message of, like, hope and empowerment.
It is.
But Tsarion also talks about, like, good and evil being manipulated, right?
Yeah.
How does that fit into this idea of awakening and creating a new reality?
That's a crucial point. Tsarion argues that the way we've been taught to think about good and evil is often a trap.
Okay.
He suggests that the controllers deliberately create this, like, false dichotomy, pitting us against each other to distract us from the real source of control.
So it's not about fighting against some external evil, but about recognizing those systems of control that are operating, within ourselves and within society.
Exactly. It's about transcending that duality of good and evil and recognizing the deeper forces that are at play. He encourages us to look beyond the surface, to question the motives of those in power, and to really discern the true nature of events.
So basically he's saying we need to become more discerning about the narratives that we're being fed and, learn to think for ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. He believes that once we see through those illusions, we can start to dismantle the systems of control and create a world that's based on truth, justice, and compassion.
It's a big vision.
It is.
It's a call to action that requires a lot of courage and commitment. But after, like, exploring his ideas, it feels like there's a real possibility for change, even in the face of, like, such daunting challenges.
Yeah, that's the power of his work, I think. He doesn't just point out the problems. He offers a path forward, a vision of a better future that we can all help to create.
Well, this deep dive into Tsarion's theories has been quite a journey.
Yeah.
We've explored ancient mysteries and alien interventions and the hidden forces that are kind of shaping our world. It's a lot to absorb, but it's also incredibly thought-provoking.
It is. It's a lot to ponder. Whether you agree with all of his ideas or not, his work definitely challenges us to think differently, to question the narratives that we've been given, and to, reclaim our power as conscious beings.
And that's ultimately what this deep dive is all about, right? We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas, to do your own research, and to come to your own conclusions.
Remember, this is just the beginning of your journey.
Right.
There's so much more to discover.
Right.
And we're excited to see where your own deep dive takes you.
Thanks for joining us on this exploration of Michael Tsarion's fascinating and thought-provoking theories. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep seeking truth, and keep diving deep.